Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Jay Watson, your host. This is where we talk about life, family, business, and legacy. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Very sensitive topic tonight. Actually, it's not quite that sensitive at all. It's mainly about helping people who need help, whether they are former ex-offenders, veterans, homeless, I don't care who they are, college students, persons who just need help. But I want to talk mainly about ex-offenders, and the reason, because I'm an ex-offender. And if I didn't have the resources that I had upon my release, I would be probably back in prison right now. This is just, real talk. Many people don't have family or the appropriate transitional plan upon release. Now, let me just give you a little bit real quick, right? Some prisons are like the prisons you see on TV, but not the one that I was at. Plus, I wasn't in an area where there was a lot really taking place. But with that being said, each counselor in prison has about 30 to 50 offenders that they're servicing, home plans, family issues, trying to get in contact with their children, get them enrolled in educational programs, and so forth and so on. This is the process of a typical day. And what I come to find is that if I didn't write my own personal plan, I would have been back in prison. This is true because at the time I was being released, we had COVID going on and a bunch of other things happening. It kind of died down by the time I got home, but I didn't have a person to sit down with me and say, hey, what's your plan? And my plan is huge. I mean, the vision is huge, but I knew that I couldn't transition back into an area where I just got incarcerated or the environment is not as beneficial or suitable to my success. And that's the number one for me. That is the number one priority with people who are being released. That first 90 days is so vital. That first 90 days is a matter of life and death. I have friends, guys I call brothers, who are back in prison already, and I've been home 2 years, 4 months, and they came out directly after me. Lack of job, lack of employment, lack of resources for housing. And the thing about prison is it prepares you to transition into society, but it doesn't prepare society for your transition. And that's a big issue. I've applied for I don't know how many apartments, and my record is why I cannot get one. It's not my income, it's my record on why I can't get one. And then the problem is we talk about reform, we talk about recidivism, we talk about decreasing net rate, we talk about the stigmatization that's placed on people when they come home. But technically you're doing your time 3 times. After you do your time, you're on probation, all right, until your fines and restitution or those whom you've harmed are compensated, right? And then the denial of everything, whether that's employment, apartments, vehicles, no matter what it is. I have been in this process 2 years now. And if I wasn't self-employed, God be with me. If I wasn't self-employed, things wouldn't look the way that they look. And even though I still have some difficulties being self-employed, I have accomplished a lot. I have went from prison to the Atlanta Tech Village within 5 months of being out of prison, moved to Atlanta, was able to join Atlanta Tech Village. Great opportunity for anyone who's looking to grow what you have, who you want to be in tech. Being a black man, convicted, go ahead, deadbeat father to that as well, and a couple other things, who really couldn't live life right, who really couldn't do life right. I had no choice but to depart, leave my children over here and get my foundation together first so that I'm able to provide more for them, be more for them, be more to them. So I was able to join the Atlanta Tech Village. Great experience. I was able to create and design and do some wonderful things since being out, with a book coming out in September, but that's neither here nor there. But let's go back to the transitioning from prison though. So that first 90 days is so vital, right? And within that 90 days, families of people who are incarcerated talk to employers regarding the person you have coming home. All right. If this individual was incarcerated or their crime was committed in the area or the household is not suitable for them, please find them somewhere else to go. Because what ends up happening is they will find themselves between a rock and a hard place and have to make some pretty tough decisions. Not decisions that move them forward, but decisions that set them back. Now that's a big problem. When decisions that are made set you back, and you are in low-income communities, because I mean, being real, we all know that most of the men who are incarcerated and women who are incarcerated come from low-income communities or communities that struggle. Not saying that our other brothers and sisters aren't involved in those numbers, those stats as well, but there's a big issue there. So let me see something real quick. While I'm in front of my computer, let me just see what the number is of people real quick who are still incarcerated in the U.S. Wow. So it says here that the number of people in the U.S. that are incarcerated is 1,204,300. I'm just going to really quickly, because I know we, recording and all that, but the number is right here, if you can see it, right? So, excuse me. So what happens is, the families of those who are incarcerated, your number one priority should be understanding the transition. The transition is so important. And knowing what the transition looks like, clothes, food, shoes, support, employment, education if possible, and understanding the process that we went through while in prison. Now, when I was in prison, I studied hard, right? Because being a deadbeat dad, being a not so good husband to my first wife, not being a person of, let's say, good character, good morals, principles, integrity, that made me look at things a lot differently. So I didn't focus on nothing but making myself better, right? I came home with 80 different plans, 80 different strategies, a team of people who are cheering me on to go and do the thing. Now, of course, my children's moms were mad. Even my children were upset. And I had kids by all these different women. Some of them I really didn't know. Found out I had a child who, by my second daughter's mom, who turns out to be my youngest child now. And she still doesn't know that I'm her biological dad. And the thing about this is, man, all this mess that's created before you even enter into a place where you're forced to sit down, forced to listen, forced to hear what life is talking about, what life is really about. I had to make that change. I had to make that transition. So I wasn't talking on the phone to any females or doing any of that type of stuff. Towards the end, I started talking to my daughter's mom and then a couple others to see what it would be like to, enter into something, and I'm preparing for transition. I had my business plan, I had my financial plan, I had my risk plan. Okay, I had my debt-free plan. I had all my plans written, drawn up in these big binders, big bags. Next episode, I'll try to show you that if I can remember to do so. And I came home. I sat there the first day, and my first thought was, first and foremost, thank you, God, for allowing me to live through that, get through that, and make it back to the other side. And then I went into meditation on what needs to happen now to elevate myself and get myself in a position where I can be the man that's called to lead himself first, and then his family second. And then I'm gonna add this piece in there for women who are mothers of children or fathers of children who the other parent is incarcerated, right? Learn what they've learned. That is very, very important. Learn what they've learned. This way, You don't have to argue so much about something. Keep in mind, I know who the person is or was when they went in, but that don't mean people come out the same way. That's another story. I'm not even getting into that because I've been to start acting like a preacher on this thing, and that's not my lane. But what I'm saying is this transition is not an easy one, because no matter how many apps I've developed, how many apps I've designed, how many books, I still face the same stuff as if I were still incarcerated. I am not given the same chance as a white man who was once incarcerated, and I witnessed that with my own two eyes, okay? Families of those who are incarcerated, try to hear what they're saying when they get home. Sit them down, ask them what they've learned. Please do not be the person who says, what you need to do is this. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna happen. That's how I ended back in prison twice, from just going back to people who did that. Because now what happens is you set an expectation for me, and I am trying my best to live up to that expectation. That's a problem. Now, the second thing that happens is when I can't live up to that expectation legally, I am going to try to do it illegally. And then that's become a problem. Now I'm back, and the counselors or the penitentiary system directors and so forth and so on put this label that you are a statistic. You are repeating the cycle of, you're just that one caught up in recidivism. And that's not it. You're not caught up in recidivism. Okay, you're caught up in a lifestyle first. You're caught up in a feeling and emotion first. You're caught up in a way of people pleasing. That's where I'm going. People pleasing. Don't become the people that the other needs to please. Not in that way. We've already set goals. We've already mapped out things. And when we get home, what we're looking for, I'm just going to speak for like 500,000 of the men. We're looking for support and rest. That 90 days is so vital that we have to get up, find employment, make a payment arrangement with the courts, payment arrangement with child support if owed. And I would advise any man or woman, before seeing your children, take 15 days if you can. And here is why. If you come from a background like me, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Grew up in the projects. At one point in time, I lived with my grandmother in the house in Holland Park, so it wasn't that bad then. But I remember living in Mookham Court, Fairfield, Mosey, all these other places, right? And that stuff is embedded in the back of your mind, the lifestyles and things you see coming up and learning in that environment. Now, if you come from that environment, and the women or men you talk to, you meet in that environment, foresee it, look at it. All of my children, except one, are in the projects. Which means before I get home, I already know the problem or the issue that you face being and or living in the projects. So my plan, I drew up a plan that said, okay, one, I am not going to the projects for the first 15 days. I'm not going to see my kids. I need to become one with myself first and put myself in a position where I can see their situation and know that I'm working on something in the background, versus see their situation and immediately want to act on it as if I'm going to do something to change it immediately. It don't happen like that. It takes time. The mothers are going to yell. The fathers are going to yell. People are going to say, you're here now. You need help. They need help. I need you to help me. Do not listen to it. It is the hardest thing to do, to watch your children suffer. And there's something you can do about it, but it's only temporary. Yeah, sure, you can go do something you have no business doing to fix it immediately, but you haven't solved it ultimately. And the planning process, this first 90 days is about laying the seeds to solve it ultimately, so you don't have to go back and do the things you once did and got where you always ended up. And the support side need to understand, do not make the demand so high. No, she doesn't need to be watching any kids, even though they're hers, and the person that's watching them need a break. No, he doesn't need to be watching his kids, even though he made them and the person who had them need a break. Because a man or a woman with no foundation, no belief system, the right belief system beneath them to slingshot them, to catapult them into who they're called to be, they will go back to the same system and be in the same place. Listen and hear me well. This 2 years and 4 months have taught me so much that I was blessed enough to do the Blackstreet Wall Street event, do some business development services, meet some people, become one with people. But I'm giving you the experience from all 3 sides and 4 sides. That's living in poverty, living in prison, right? Living in the middle class, and then living on my own. So my experiences tell me that the women who we had children with, they're angry, they're upset, we get it. The only thing I can do is apologize for the hurt or pain that I've caused you, but I am not going to act immediately to solve your problem, because you know me better than anybody else on how I solve problems. And then I'm back where I started, prison, and you're back in the same boat 5, 6, 7 years, and now you just can't get right. Do not fall for it. It's better that you come home, or if you're already home, and catch on versus trying to catch up. And that's what they will force you to do. I'm not catching up or nothing. My kids are mad with me right now because I did not send anything for back to school shopping. I'm not lying to you. This is it. I am investing in a vision to take care of you forever and the children that you're going to have. I will be out my mind if I take my hard-earned time and money to pour into an outfit for you to look good for 20 minutes, go dirty it up, come back home, and then still be in the same boat. If anything, ask me to help you, or mothers and fathers, whichever way your situation go, ask me to help you to get a house, to move them out of the environment so that we can start focusing on the foundation of their learning and the things that they've seen, calling out the facts, calling out what's false, so they can build themselves up and have moral integrity and the things they need to go out into the world and be who God has called them to be. That's what I care more about. I don't care about school shopping, none of that type of stuff. They can be mad, and listen to what I'm trying to tell you. 2 years, 4 months versus you being out in the world for however many years you've been out in the world, and I'm going to risk myself, that don't make sense. Or you risk yourself, this men and women. That's crazy. The first 90 days, the only thing you should be focused on is seeing what needs to change, but you've already seen that in your meditation, in your reflection. Because in prison, you got a lot of time to sit back and think about some things. We're not stupid. I know all of the women that I've slept with or have kids by are in poverty. In the words of Dr. King, excuse me, we know that poverty, ignorance, and disease breeds crime. Poverty, ignorance, and disease breeds crime. So why would I, with that method there, why would I say I'm going to go back to where there is nothing to stand on just so I can be in the same household with my children? Some men are able to do that. And this is where it comes to knowing yourself, because I'm not able to do that. I have to go, okay? I have to go and do things in the area where I can build something up to hand to you and then teach you how and why it had to be done this way. Because truth be told, if I'm just being 100% honest, and that's what my YouTube channel is all about, being 100% honest, you're not supposed to be here anyway. Yeah, I'm talking about the kids. That's I said it. Because me being a teenage parent, dad, not father, none of that, that's tough. And I know it's even tougher on the women. What sacrifices you had to make. Hold on, wait a minute. Is it a sacrifice to drop out of school? It's not a sacrifice. Because a decision was made. So therefore, for every action, there's an equal and or opposite reaction, which means there's a decision that was made on consequence or result. So, yeah. So that's what happened. So now the moment we come to our understanding of ourselves, who God is, we get our lives in order, and then we execute in that. The only thing we need upon release is support in all the areas. Can't go back to the same household, can't go back to the same environment. Got to keep your mind clear. You can't get involved with nothing, no matter how. I know it's hard, man. I'm telling you, I know that it's hard. You got to keep going and you got to keep fighting. And I'm not talking about the fighting against the process. I'm talking about fighting while in the process. It pains me every day to be in Atlanta and my babies are in another state. But I know the greater good in what I'm doing to solve the problem ultimately versus solve the problem temporarily, because that's what it's all about. It's about putting a foundation in place that we can build off of and elevate and keep going versus I'm just going to find a thing to do to meet that need for a moment and I never go up. I'm a business developer. I'm a master business developer at that. I look at processes and concepts. I look at how things ought to be laid out. And I started in this process, when I was about 14 years of age, just out dancing and playing instruments and doing things like that, structuring groups and stuff together. You know, people can tell you about it. This is what we do, because there's always someone on the other side of the evidence that you need to actually validate it. So these are just talent, skills, and abilities. But I didn't have the chance in a stable environment with cleaning out the old while entering the new, meaning being birthed to a mom that's on drugs, going through foster care, group homes, all of this type of stuff, being molested. This thing is big, man. All of these things play a part in what has happened. And the moment you land in that prison, that pit, and you decide to change your life, you make others aware of your change, and others should support the change because you're looking at it. The thing you should never do as a supporter of a person who's coming home from any type of setback is tell them how they should do a thing. Because if they have spent the time, they will tell you that they have mapped it out and laid it out, and they're going to ask for advice when needed. Don't need dictators or none of that. So the first 90 days are very vital, man, for families and the person who's transitioning, because the burden is on counselors in prison. Counselors have a caseload of 20 to 50 inmates each, and that's not to mention their own household, their own problems that they're dealing with. And I pray to God that they have a counselor, because there's some heavy stuff back there. It's some deep stuff being landed and planted in the minds of these men and women who take time out of their day to come counsel us, to get us on the right path and find out what we need. I believe the government need to do better in that area, but that's another topic, that's another video. So ask your loved ones, what is your plan when you get home? And once they tell it to you, tell them, send it to you in an email or mail it to them, or mail it to you, so you can see exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it that way. And then you can become part of their plan as well. If not, the plan will tilt, because two things happened. Well, when I got home, I had a support system. So the support system is the biggest part of transitioning. When I didn't have a support system, I'm going to go and make my own, which means that I'm going back to that which is familiar. That's all the people who are involved in crime, because those are all the people that I know. So with that being said, I greatly appreciate you tuning in to Jay Watson with Javon Watson, Chief Business at Javon Watson YouTube channel, where we talked about this first video here being the most important thing to do your first 90 days. And we know on that third day, before that third day, you have to go see that probation officer, and that's fine. And let them know your plan. And if you feel as if your probation officer is not supporting your plan, ask for another one. Find the people you need to support your plan. And if you have any questions for me, if any of your family members need help with anything, they can email me directly. That's Javon L. Watson, #1@gmail.com, and I'll respond. I'll help them with whatever you need help with. Or if you're a family with a loved one that's incarcerated, I'll help you with whatever they need help with. And together, we can make this world a better place, especially for those who are transitioning. And man, I just look forward to just a lot of peace, a lot of love, a lot of success from people who are ex-offenders, because everyone's setback is not the same. Meaning everybody's comeback is not the same. So with that being said, until next time, I'll see you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Peace, love, blessings. Thank you.